G'day guys, Chronicles of Solid here and welcome back to the garage. Today I thought I'd do a little bit of a Q&A between us. You've got a lot of questions and I thought a video would be the best way to answer them. So let's get into it. Some of you know I've been having health issues and that's the first question. I'm not going to throw that question up because a lot of the time they're private messages or private emails, so I'll keep those people out of the limelight. I'm still having issues with my stomach. As some of you know, I had an operation earlier in the year and it's really affected my fitness levels, and I still have some small problems, so it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back at the moment. So it's kind of hindered how many videos I've been able to make, especially off-road, as it requires a bit of fitness to ride out in the dirt all day. The second problem is my wrists. As you know, I crashed in 2012 and I broke pretty much every bone in my forearms, and I have a lot of pain problems, and it's really restricted how much I can do with editing the video. Luckily I have a friend behind the camera who's offered to help me with shooting and with editing, so you should see more videos in the future. So let's get into the rest of the questions. So the first question is from Vora Azim, and he wants to know what adventure bikes are good for people that are a little bit shorter and might find it hard to get their feet on the ground. He's 171 centimeters tall, so it's not that short really, but it does make a lot of difference when you're sitting on a bike like this with a really high ground clearance. So the bike I would suggest is the best is the F700 GS, or the F750 GS that it's now called. It's still got a 19-inch front wheel, so you can go down dirt roads and maybe some little technical 2-wheel tracks, and it's a great tourer. Another bike is a Honda CB500X. The only problem with that is it has a smaller front wheel, a 17-inch, so it's not so great at the off-road stuff, but you can upgrade the wheels in the aftermarket. The last bike I would recommend is the Honda Africa Twin. It is a little taller, but it's also a lot better off-road, so if you're a guy that really likes taking your adventure bike in the really hard stuff, that would be the bike to go for. Okay, so the next question is from Quality Content, and he wants to know where in Australia are my video clips from. So I'm located in Perth, Western Australia, and most of my riding is in the Perth Hills just to the right of me in the Darling Range. But I do a lot of adventure riding, as you see, so I spend some time down south in Dwellingup. I also do a bit of riding in the Wheat Belt, and I also spend some time in the sand dunes north of the river in the Two Rocks area. So most of my riding is located in this Perth area. I rarely do anything further than the Perth Hills. Okay, so my next question is from Svet Mineski, and he wants to know what's the latest on the Yamaha T7. So there hasn't been much news on the production model, but the T7 concept has been going from country to country doing a showcase of the concept. I don't think we'll see the production model revealed until the International Motorcycle Show, and that's in October, early November, so I think that's when you'll hear more on the Yamaha T7. Okay, so my next question is from Giulio Bassini, and he's asking, is the production of the KTM 790 moving to China? Yes, it is. In 2020, all of production on the KTM 790, Enduro, the Duke, are all going to be in China. They've partnered with CF Moto, and CF Moto have actually been using some of the KTM engines already. So CF Moto have already kind of got the setup. Now, I'm not sure whether you're alluding to whether the quality will still be the same after 2020 with KTM moving their production over. They are going to be doing some production before 2020, so it's really up in the air as to how the quality is going to turn out. My guess is it shouldn't be too bad. CF Moto are a fairly good, as far as Chinese production goes, motorcycle manufacturer, and the fact that they've already been using KTM engines in their bikes stands to good reason that quality control should be okay, as well as you've got KTM looking over their shoulders to make sure everything's okay, but really it's just going to be a wait and see how it turns out. So the next question is from Cyclopathic. It's a great name, by the way. So this is a 2-part question. The first part is he wants to know whether the 390 Adventure will be coming to the US. The short answer is yes, probably. Now you have the RC390 and the Duke 390 already, so it makes sense that they would bring over the 390 Adventure. So unless something crazy happens with EPA regulations, I think it's a pretty sure thing that you will get the 390 Adventure in America. Now the second part to the question is a little more complicated to answer, and that's, do I think that the 390 Adventure will cannibalize sales of the 790 Adventure? Now the 390 Adventure is more of a entry-level adventure bike. It's not that hard-edged for the off-road riding, whereas the 790 Adventure is a high-performance, high-powered adventure bike. It's really going for the guys that like to push the limits, whereas the 390 is really looking for the entry-level rider and the guy that just wants a lightweight adventure bike for dirt roads. So I think there's a pretty definitive line between both, so I don't think sales will be cannibalized. Now it could happen in the future that if they release a 390 Adventure R that's much better for off-road, you could start seeing the guys that want a lighter weight bike than the 790 starting to move over to that smaller displacement bike. So if that happens in the future, then yes, maybe, but in its current form, I don't think so. The next question is from Rajesh Gunda, and he's asking me which one is better to go with, the Yamaha T7 or the AJP PR7. Now this is a hard question to answer given that the Yamaha T7 isn't actually out yet. We haven't seen a production model, so it's kind of an unquantified bike at the moment, but here's what I think as it stands. The AJP PR7 will be a great bike if you want a harder edged off-road adventure bike that is still lightweight. The problems that come with the AJP PR7 is that it's a very small manufacturer, so maybe getting access to parts and finding dealerships could be a bit of a struggle. Whereas if you bought the T7, you've got the full weight of Yamaha behind you, parts will be cheaper, access to dealerships will be all over the place, and the bike will probably be cheaper because manufacturing costs will be slightly lower. Now we don't actually know how the T7 will turn out, but my guess is it will probably be more road orientated than the PR7. So if you're more of a road orientated guy, maybe the T7 is the way to go. And if you are good with mechanics and you want a harder edge off-road bike, the PR7 is probably your best bet. Okay, so the next question is from Chief119 or Chief119, however you want to say that. And he has a question regarding the WR250R and the CRF250L. He's asking which one should he get, and he's 6'1" and 225. So he's a fairly big guy and he's wanting to know which of these 250s is the best. Now I have answered this question in a video. I will link it in the description below, going really in depth on these two bikes because it is quite a difficult question to answer. So I will attempt to answer it nonetheless. The short answer is both bikes are great, so you really can't make a wrong decision if you're looking at these two bikes. They're both aimed at entry-level guys getting into the dual sport world, and they really will go anywhere. Just watch some of my videos. My mate has a CRF 250L, I have a WR 250L, and we both go everywhere from single track to multi-day adventures. Now for a bigger guy, I might err on the side of using the WR 250R because it has better suspension and it also makes a little more power, so that will help carry your weight around a little better, and it will also handle a little better off-road, being able to handle your weight with the suspension. So the next question is from Mr. Green, and he wants to know if oil changes on the CRF 450L every 1,000 kilometers, and he sounds pretty shocked by this, so I'll try and answer the question. Yes, I'm not kidding, it is every 1,000 kilometers, and I think the reason you're asking is because it has the L on the end, you might think that it's a dual sport. It's actually more of an enduro bike with some dual sport tendencies, I guess. It has been made so it can go on road a bit. It does have a license plate, but it does have a very short service schedule and is very performance orientated, so it is still much more of an enduro bike than a dual sport. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about the 450L as your next bike. The next question is from MX Guru, and it's a question I've answered in a previous video, which I will link in the description box, and it's also linked to the previous question. He wants to know why I consider the CRF 450L to be an enduro and not a dual sport like the Yamaha behind me. And the short answer is the service intervals. You have to change the oil every 1,000 kilometers. Sure, you can stretch that out a bit, but if you like to stick to the schedule, it's every 1,000 kilometers. And that's far too short in my mind to be a dual sport where you want to do multi-day adventures and not have to lug oil with you and change on the actual adventure. Now, to answer it a little longer, it's also got to do with its performance and its price tag. It's quite expensive and it's performance orientated, whereas a dual sport tends to be cheaper and it's more tailored to last longer rather than be high performance. So that's really the answer in a nutshell. That about wraps up this video. If you like this format, this is a new style of video, leave me some feedback in the comments section below, especially if you'd like to see this continued into the future. I will leave links in the description box to my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter, where you can ask me any motorcycle related questions and I will try and answer it for you. And as always, I've been Chronicles of Solid and I'll catch you in the next video, guys. See you later.